Good evening, everyone. My name is Birdie Sodi. I have the honor of being the Executive Director of Chicago Jazz Philharmonic, presenting this special free program tonight, Chicago Immigrant Stories. And thank you again to the DuSable Museum for hosting this event with us tonight. This is a project that we conceived of last January, if you can remember back to that time, as the immigration ban was just announced. And at that time, we had a whole season of blockbuster shows planned for this year that we wanted to present to the Chicago community. And when this all came up, we said, you know, there's something we've got to do about this. Music has always been that connector to our community to bring people together that helps them bring that space of what we have in common rather than what makes us different. And we embarked on this journey where we wanted to identify and work with musicians across the city representing different ethnic heritages and immigrant communities, and to see what would happen if we put our aesthetic of jazz and classical together with the beautiful heritage of some of these musicians, and just had them sharing stories and sharing their music, and let's see what happens. So that's what you'll get treated with tonight. It'll be both some sharing of stories and sharing music, and we definitely enjoy and hope that you will engage in that conversation as well. We will leave time at the end of the program for questions, thoughts, feedback, and along those lines, this is a free performance, so I hope in your programs you see that there is a yellow form, so at the very least, if you can give us some feedback about tonight's performance. We do have donation envelopes in the front if you feel so inclined and inspired from tonight's performance that you'd like to give to the cause. We are doing an entire year of free programming with Immigrant Stories this spring, as well as leading into a 3-concert series at Millennium Park this summer, which will kick off on June 14th with the culminating event of Chicago Immigrant Stories. So it will feature the musicians you're hearing tonight, as well as the Chinese musicians that we worked with last month, and the South Asian Indian musicians that we'll be working with next month. That event is April 3rd, and you'll all be getting an email about that tomorrow, so you can register and sign up for that. And that will be our full orchestra, so 60 musicians, plus featuring the talents of all these wonderful musicians we've been collaborating with. And without further ado, I'd like to bring Orbitz Davis to the stage to tell you more about the Immigrant Stories project and introduce the musicians and get things kicked off. Orbitz Davis.
Okay, we're done. You ever go to a restaurant and the appetizer is so good, you'd be like, man, I'm gonna have to take the rest of the meal home. Wow. For those of you who are expecting a concert, sorry to disappoint you. As Bertie Sodi said earlier, this is actually think of it as what we call it an innovation lab, a laboratory where things are made, where recipes are tested, where ideas and conversations happen. The idea, exactly 14 months ago, a certain person decided that they would, in the middle of the night, institute an immigration ban, and the country went crazy for a minute. And many of us went crazy. I went crazy. But the only tool I had at that time was my Facebook page, and I decided to post just quotations from friends, that, as I call them. I said, some of my friends said that they were the first in their country, from their country, in their family, to go to college. Others said that their parents came to the United States to escape the Civil War. These are actually true stories. Another friend told me that they just wanted a better life. And somehow America has always seemed to be that place. There's a statue in New York that actually holds her arm up and says, come on. And if we look in this room, everyone in here can say, yeah, my family came from somewhere. Some of us, we even say that our families, we don't even know, but they were stolen from their land and brought to America to build America through a process called slavery. And so as I just wrote these 5 or 6 quotes, before I could turn the computer off, comments are flying, like whoa, 100, 300, 500 comments. And one particular caught my eye because it was a dissertation on his mother's side, and then a few minutes later, father's side, with pictures. And I called Howard Levy and said, we got to do something about this. I said, we need to do something. What can we do as artists? And our stories are important. I said, well, we shared our stories, and we have to take it to the stage. We have to take the concept. So the next day we had a meeting, a staff meeting with Mark, our co-founder, and Bertie, and we're talking about our 5-year strategic plan for concerts. And I just mentioned this idea, and immediately we changed. Because it's jazz, we can change, The concept changed, so the concept became, let's do this, but first of all, we got to make it free. Our normal home, as many of you know, is the auditorium theater, but I can't afford to go to auditorium theater sometimes. So we said, in order to produce change, we have to do it for free at Millennium Park. So the process is oh man, I can't believe it. I can't begin to tell you on so many levels. We're going to talk about that, but tonight is an inside look of the process, because the concert's June 14th, and not a note is written. And it won't be written until, when should we start, Howard?
April 2nd.
April 2nd. We have a meeting that we're going to put together all the ideas from our Chinese American friends, and we're meeting later with our Indian, I like how Bertie put it, you said South Asian Indian American friends, and of course our West African friends. Okay, disclaimer though, because we ran into a little bit of a problem. We're going to play a little bit, but we got to deal with this subject very quickly. In the fact that when we met with our first meeting with the Indian American friends, they know exactly where they're from. We talked about northern India, the difference between the music of southern India, and we kind of dealt with that. And when we met with our Chinese American friends, they could talk specifically about grandfather, great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather in the native country. So when Sekou, we first started talking about this project, I wanted to immediately know, where are you from? Where are you from? And he said, I don't remember what he said, but I said, well, I'm African-American. And then it turns out, well, you're African-American. And then all of a sudden, reality started to play into this. It's like, do we really know? I mean, think about this. We have 2 parents. We have 4 great-grandparents. We have 16 great-grandparents. I mean, that number goes greater and greater and greater if we start going into the 1800s, the 1700s, the 1600s, and there was slavery. And so that crime of kidnapping people for the sake of industry affected us all. So we've dealt with that all these years. You know, I even, years ago, I got a master's degree at Northwestern for one reason. As a jazz musician, I was left with the challenge, where does jazz come from? You know, and the textbooks I read says it's a combination of European and African elements. And you know, when you think about that, any kind of combination, you want to think of a boardroom and people got together and said, yeah, you know what, I'll give you this and you give me this. That's not the way it happened. And even the unaccounted for time from the 1600s all the way to the 1900s, when we can actually say that jazz was first really acknowledged as being jazz, there's this incubation that we just don't talk about. So I had to figure this out. So I had to go back to school. There's an incredible library in Northwestern University called the Melville Herskovitz Library, which is about Africanisms, like finding the traces of Africa in America. So I was in Brazil, and I was telling Brazil, I'm so impressed with the African Brazilians. And she almost slapped me. What? She said, there's no such thing as an African Brazilian. I said, we're all Brazilians. I went to Cuba, and you know, I'm just like, man, there's Africa all over the place. It's like, man, the rumba, it's like, oh, my cousins. Why is North America different? It's like, why don't we have the drums like they do there? One word, sharks. Slave masters in Cuba said, play your drums all day long, you ain't going nowhere. You know? Slave masters in Brazil said, play your drums all day long. There's that Amazon rainforest, you ain't going nowhere. But in America, it's wide open. And think about it, that's industry. An escaped slave, thank you so much. Thank you. How old are you? Okay, 2. She's 2. She's like, amen, brother. But that's what we have to deal with. So the greatest crime of humanity, or one of the greatest crimes in America, is the taking away of the drum. Because there are over 3,000 distinct cultures in that mighty continent of Africa. But once the African became the African American, all that 3,000 drops of blood formed one person. And that one person was no longer the African, it was the African American, which is different. The African American is not the African. And we know because Kunta Kinte tried to keep his name, and they beat Toby out of him, right? I was saying, okay, I know it's the 70s and 80s, but you work with me here. You know, that's what it was. It's a changing of identity. So the only thing that the African had in America was the very skin that he or she brought. So how do we deal with that now? How do we deal with that now? Here's what we do. We embrace it all. Because what we don't know, we discover. And as we feel the identity in various places within Africa, we can say, yes, that's mine. We can say, that's mine. I mean, come on now, you know. Wakanda, you know. That was it. That's the message. So that's the spirit of why we're here. So I'm actually through talking. So I know you're saying he's talking a lot, but that's it. It's just kind of a backdrop. So again, for June 14th, you'll see the entire Chicago Jazz Philharmonic, 60 people. It's a blending of classical, jazz, and culture. But what's going to blow our mind is how we're going to figure out, it's not just about turning the channel. So, you know, now we're on the Chinese American channel, and then we're going to go to the Indian channel. And no, we're going to feature everybody, but we're going to bring it together at the end. Because there's so many things. There are so many ways in which humanity speaks, and it only speaks through the art. So thank you all for being here and experiencing this. So we don't know where it's going to go. We're going to just improvise, if you will. So I want to turn it over to Sekou. You want to start with I kind of said a lot, I'm sorry. I even took a lot of his words, I'm sorry about that. But it, you know, it works, so. Well, we'll play a little bit more. So the heart of it all, as you see, and the foundation is in the rhythm. So Atiba, Omari, and Sekou, Ernie Adams, let's have a conversation. I was thinking as they were playing that when the drums were taken away, communication was taken away. I mean, that's the purpose of drums being taken away. And I think that even today we have problems in our communities because of our lack of communication, because the drums were taken away. We can bring it back. So I want to thank you all for all the young people. Hyde Park High School, thank you. After School Matters. Yeah, oh my goodness. I can't wait to hear you all's questions at the end. Hint, hint. All right. One of the things that we understand in various cultures is that various African cultures, that there's no separation between the music and movement. Too many times we think in our society, we think of entertainment and dancing as an entertainment, watching dancing, but not necessarily it being a part of our daily lives. So I want to open this up. Sekou, you can start with this and talk about, the experiences. Oh, you got one. Oh, check that out. All right.
Yes, what was you wanting me to talk about?
Well, I mean, we might as well introduce yourself. One thing I did want to do is introduce us. Stuart Miller on bass. And of course, Howard Levy on harmonica and piano. And so the floor is yours. You can just.
Okay. First off, I have to say that this is a humbling experience for me. To be on the stage with so many wonderful musicians who have gone through the trenches and bled, sweat, tears, all of those sorts of things which have made us to be who we are. I've learned through life is that the struggles, the things that we usually run from are the things that we really should go towards. Because that really builds up the character for who we should be as a human being. And I like to speak about humanity and not too much per se about particular individualism, but as it relates to humanity, for us as a human race, a lot of times we tend to do the things that are a little more easier to be done. But when we look at all of the superstars and the people that we really, really, consider icons, those people have to go through the trenches, So that is one thing that I'm humble and I'm honored to be on the stage with you guys. That's the first thing I want to say. Thank you. Thank you all. Okay. So, as it relates to what you were speaking of about the drums and how it relates to the dance, it's a marriage. That's what we have grown to learn, is that when you place the dance and the music, then on top of that you have song as well. Right, so all of that's that trinity that, I don't know, I'm not gonna go that far into it, but, okay, so as it relates to that the sound itself is a very interesting topic, because sound vibrates, sound has a particular speed, sound penetrates, sound elevates things. So as a musician, we learn that when we play this, and I'm saying play and not beat, because a lot of times we go to schools and we love the way you beat the drums. My mama told me if I beat anything, I usually get in trouble for that. So when we play these instruments, no matter which instruments they are, that they are having an effect on us. And they're having an effect on our psyche, they're having an effect on our physicality. And being able to be that doctor, to go far enough into the studies and the learning and that struggle that I was saying, to understand that everything that I play on this particular drum has a particular vibration. And every time I hit a particular note, it's affecting me in a particular kind of way. So we have to get to the point that we get enough studies into it to understand that which of these sounds affect me in which type of way. You know? Yes.
Demonstrate a little bit, because one thing I learned just the other day when we got together was the multitude of sounds that you're able to get in your trio. I was hearing the whole orchestra within the ensemble. So can you demonstrate some of that as far as like?
Different sounds. Okay, yes. For those who don't know, this is called a djembe. The djembe comes from the Manding or the Malinke people of West Africa. And those names can vary depending on what country on the west coast of Africa that you are. You can say Mandingo, Mandinka, Maninka, Malinke, Mende. All of these people are in the movies primarily that you see when it relates to Africa. But the drum produces three basic notes. I don't know if you can really hear that, but that's called bass. The next one is tone, and the last one is slap. Okay, so there is a technique to be able to get that. Just like we study all other instruments, there is a proper technique to be able to get these sounds, and it takes time. So bass, tone, and slap. And when you're able to produce those sounds properly, then you can become the magician, is the word I'm trying to say. It's where you can take those different sounds and you manipulate them, and then you could take this, or I can go, or I can go, right? So when you're able to produce something, you can manipulate them to be able to create the beautiful rhythms that you hear us playing up here. So,
are you thinking in terms of being melodic? Because what I hear is kind of this melodic aspect coming out, not just rhythm, but it's pitch, it's vertical at the same time.
Exactly, it's definitely melodic. And with being able to produce these notes, but what's important about being able to produce those is that you can actually create different melodic simulations depending on how you want to. Just as like the beautiful sounds that I heard from you playing the trumpet, you know, the way that you can manipulate them notes, you know, and you can communicate. And that's the thing about language, is that English is the flattest language on the planet. It has no tonal range, it has no harmony, it has nothing, okay? It is a language, thus say. It is a language. But when it comes to traditional languages, and I can only speak about West Africa because that's where my studies have been, but West African languages are tonal. You know, there are pitches, there are highs, there are lows, there's punctuations, because everything has its purpose in the sense, in the grand scheme of things. When we listen to nature, we hear many, many, many different sounds. And those different sounds, when they come together or if they're passing by each other, there's a communication that happens between each sound, right? So that's what's important about being able to produce these notes as efficiently as you possibly can, right? So the biggest thing, I like to thank you, I appreciate it. I know, I'm done drumming, yeah, I'm done drumming. No, but do we want to hear the sounds of these, though? Yes, we definitely do. So you can talk about these, brother. No, you good. No, you are excellent at talking.
Good evening, guys. I came to drum today. My name is Obari. These drums come from a family of drums called the Doon Doon family. There's usually three, small, a medium, and a large. So right now, I'll just have the small and the medium. This one is called the Kinkani, and this one is called the Songba. So the way they sound together is like this, but there's also muffs. So in the same way that there's variation and there's manipulation, this becomes the base of the melodies for most of the rhythms. The djembes are often following the songba in particular. If you hear a certain pattern, if you don't know what the rhythm is, you want to find the songba, and that will tell you what the song is, what the rhythm is. And so these are kind of like this comes off as the lead, but this is often the, what you would call it? not the lead, but like the foundation. This is the foundation of all the rhythms that we play.
Yes. Bubble hat.
So last week we just had a quick meeting, not a rehearsal. We just got together, and whenever Atiba talked, we all just went.
Good evening, everyone.
The griot is in the house.
Well, good evening. It's an honor to be here with you. Let me first say, when he spoke and we had us do the drum conversation, and he said, let's hear the drummers have a conversation. And a lot of times when we get together as drummers and we have freedom to speak like that, we go for the solo. But we didn't do that. Sekou took quite a bit of the speaking. Sekou, Obari, they come up under me. They play better than I do now. They do so much stuff that I didn't learn, or that they have access to that was quicker than we had. When we started, we played the drums. We made our own drums, a group called Sun Drummer here in Chicago. Made our drums so we can get close to it, understand what African drumming was all about. But we didn't have all of this djembe knowledge and information that's so accessible now. We've had some brothers that would come over from the continent who didn't know much about the drums and would tell us things, and some of it wasn't so correct. So we had to continue studying. But in that, the beauty of it is that one must continue to keep a student's mind. And there you can open yourself to truly learn what's coming out, the language. So I didn't have a lot to say when we did the conversation, but I understood that integrity for each note is the key to the music. One drum, one drummer. That's the tradition. You learn that, you can hook it up with other drummers. That's the idea. When you play one set, you play all of those drums, that's a high skill level. I remember many times I've heard Ernie playing on numerous sets, and I said, that brother's playing 5, 6 parts. He was handling it, but this is what we had to do. It's just very important that the spiritual aspect of what we're doing comes across. I'm so honored that Orbitz asked us to do this. I played with jazz musicians many times, and sometimes I throw some African rhythms on there, they don't know where it's at. They don't have a clue. But then they try to act like I don't know what I'm doing. Or it gets real deep. But it's a beautiful thing that they ask to really see where we're coming from. Because the foundation is we must listen to each other. Stay in touch. That's very key. And I'll cut my conversation from that right now. Till a little bit later, we'll get into more. But thank you all for coming to do this, because for us to elevate, we really have to get down with the root. We really have to lock in, open our hearts and our minds.
Awesome. So one element that we're going to add into the concert in June, we don't know how we're going to do it, but we know we are, is dance, movement. I don't even want to call it dance. I think we call it movement. Do I have your approval for that? Yeah, even within the Indian American, we're working with Natya dance. We have 3 dancers from there, and we'll do some. But let's kind of demonstrate that a bit. I guess my first question is dance approached in terms of improvisation, or is it? Well, it has to be, because we don't know what we're going to play. Okay.
They didn't want me to have a mic because I get a little, but since you said something about dance, is it improvisational? Yes, it can be. Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Andrea Vincent. This is?
Najwa.
So, been dancing a long time, we've been working, came up with Baba Atiba, anyway. So, yes, dance can be, what was the question? Improvisation, I'm sorry, I got distracted. Yes, it can be improvisational, but there are also, if we're talking about traditional West African dance, there are traditional movements that date back hundreds and hundreds of years that make the dance what it is. But once you understand, each dance has technique. Each dance has its own unique rhythm. So that's when this, Obari was talking about how the drums follow this Rhythm, because the rhythms are different from each dance. Whereas your social dancing, now you have one song, you do many dances to one song. That is not traditionally so in West African dance. Each dance has its own unique rhythm. So within that dance, once you learn the technique, as we say, study, be in the trenches, learn the technique of that dance, then you can create or improvise, do improvisation within that technique. Within that technique. You wouldn't do another dance. You don't mix dances. You try not to mix. Now, when you do something social, like some of the social dances that they do that you just have fun, you could mix in that. But traditional dance, you don't mix it. You stay within that technique and you create or do improvisation within that technique.
I know what everyone's thinking. Is she going to demonstrate?
Yeah. I'm gonna do a little slow something called lamba. It's a dance of the oral historian, which are griots, that's the French word for it, but it's done by the Mandingo people, like he said, the people who created this drum. This is one of their very popular or most famous dances. So, it also has song. Oh, that's our mic. So, as Sekou was saying, it's song, it's a trinity, song, dance, and music. So this also has a song that goes with it. I'll just do the simple one. Help. I'm just catching everybody here.
Thank you. Yeah.
I promise. They're so afraid of me. No, but did you see the marriage part when we changed steps? I don't know if you saw us changing steps. We weren't counting. I had to listen to the musician. He told me when to change steps. He gave me a signal, change. He gave me a signal, stop. He gave us a signal, speed up. He gave us a signal, slow it back down. He gave us a signal, end. So that's how we knew. Just wanted to say that.
I'm just really curious what that dance was representing.
I'll do it. Yeah, no, so the dance is called lamba. Sometimes they call it jelly don. Jelly are the oral historians. Those are the ones who keep the history of the nation or the empire or the people. They're like ambassadors as well. They can be ambassadors to kings. They're advisors. They're the counselors. They're definitely one of the most important people or family in West Africa. And that dance is actually done, is specifically, traditionally done by the griot or the jellies themselves. With the song that she was singing, it's all talking about the office. I'm gonna say it this way, like the presidency has an office, you know, Congress has an office. And the same thing is with the jellies or the griots, that they have an office. So the whole song that she was singing was talking about that only God could give us this office. Right, so that's the song that goes. But the griots or the jellies are this dance is done to represent the power that they possess, as well as it is a dance that they do at baby births, they do it at weddings. You know, some dances can kind of be taken out of its context a little bit, but it's still for very important purposes. So this is one of those dances, and that's how we were able to kind of go up and down, because within the traditional context of it, a lot of times you have younger people who are dancing, and you have, you know, more seasoned people. I'm not going to say older, right? So you have to respect where that is, which is one of the main things that I feel like that we've gotten away from over here in America, and probably some other countries too. The respect for our elders. We've gotten away from that. So we have to understand the importance of that. So and I'm not that young either myself, to be honest, you know. But when I was younger, I was truly enforced the importance of elders and the importance of the wisdom and the information and the knowledge and the advice that they can share with you. You know, so when we play the music for them, we have to respect that as well, because when you see someone who is of a particular age, especially if they're older than you, their traditions is, say if I'm 30 years old and my brother is 35, I have to respect him just as much as I respect somebody that's 45, you see. But nowadays, if you're kind of in the same age range, you feel like you don't really have to, that's getting away from the whole purpose of what respect is.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned, let's go ahead, give it up. See, communication. So talk about the three of you all, because there's a history.
Yes, there is. Okay. Alrighty, so.
And I want all three of you to talk too.
Okay, so I'm gonna keep it short since we have three other voices that are gonna come about. I started playing drums around 4 or 5 years old. I started with Muntu Dance Theater of Chicago, which I am actually an integral part of. Last year, I actually was able I was blessed to move up the ladder and pretty much stand on the shoulders of those who came before me. So last year, I became executive director for Muntu, which I'm very humbled by that experience. Thank you. But the whole path of that is, like I said, the respect for those who came before me. So all I'm doing is standing on the shoulders of those executive directors, presidents, CEOs, whatever you want to call a person that's up there doing something. I just want to continue that path, right? So I'm just saying all that to say is that I started with Muntu when I was 4.
4 years old?
Yes, 4 years old.
Okay.
My father was a part of Muntu when I was born. So Muntu had a children's component that they would let kind of, be a part of performances and rehearsals and those sorts of things. So I was one of the snotty-nosed kids that was running around. And somebody, I guess my dad gave me a drum, and I was like, oh, this is it. This is the life here. So I have to go on with this. So my first instructor was Babu. That's the history. He was my first instructor.
Okay.
I came up under his leadership. I learned a lot about that. And out of all of my studies, I would say out of all of my studies over the 30 years or so that I've been studying this music and this culture, the main thing that has stood out to me in my life as I've gone through life was something that he told me when I was a child. I think he was a child, I guess. Some kind of way I recollected and I remembered something. Was that what he said earlier, that every note, play every note with integrity. And that reverberated, what's the word? Whatever.
Reverberated.
Reverberated, thank you so much. Reverberated throughout my life. So out of the many rhythms that I've learned, out of all of the dances that I've seen, all the songs and all the languages and everything that I've learned, that has been like the thing that's been at the forefront of my mind. And I have always tried to do that, to this day. And we'll continue. I mean, because you never get to a pinnacle. Even though that what I feel like I'm playing is making sense and it's sounding good, you all may think it sounds great, and I appreciate that. But for me, I'm a constant learner. I'm a constant struggler. Like, I want to make sure that my sound is going to constantly get cleaner. So if I'm just at home and I put a sheet or something over my drum, I'm trying to perfect my sound, even though I have people who will say, well, hey, you are super clean. I don't let that get to my head. I honestly don't, because I feel like that I can always be better. So that's for Babu, and that's for my appreciation and love for my family called Muntu. For Obari, he was a brother that I met in Alayo, right? Okay, yeah, Alayo Children's Dance Theater, which was also a branch of Muntu. Kimosha Murphy was the artistic director and of Alayo Children's Dance Theater, and she was a part of Muntu as well. So, there was a branching off of the two ensembles where one was a little more geared towards children. So that's why I met Obari. And we stayed in contact. He did go off to school and got his PhD and all of those letters that I don't know about.
All right.
Yeah, so we kind of lost contact for a while. Once he came back, I was still playing, of course, and he wanted to continue it because he was brought up under it just like myself. So there was an organization, a company that I founded, and he was a part of it. And ever since then, we just been really tight. Yeah, that's actually a picture of us that we did, a performance we did at Malcolm X, actually. Which was a part of a Najwa show, Najwa Dance Corps show. I mean, it's so many beautiful companies here in the city of Chicago, that are geared towards preserving and teaching traditional African cultures. So this picture was actually done during a Najwa Dance Corps performance, and Najwa is primarily on the west side of Chicago. They do a lot in the city, but Andrea Vincent, who was speaking earlier, is actually the artistic director. Najwa is also an integral part, principal dancer of Najwa. So, I mean, what you see here.
I was a snotty-nosed kid, too.
Yeah, so she was a snotty-nosed kid, too, running around. So she grew up like us. But so this is the history on this stage, We all have walked many different lives, lived on different streets, but we all live in the same city. And we all understand that Chicago is a beautiful place to be in, and our children are important. Yeah, so that's the history, but I'm done.
I just want to say one more thing. I started out with Najwa, but most of my growing was cured and promoted and saved by Muntu. I'm an original Muntu member. If it wasn't for Muntu, I would not be dancing. So I have to give them credit. Montu was my first family. Okay.
So I'm done. Yeah, Bob.
So real quick, because it's so hard to see y'all not play right now. I want to play so bad.
We're gonna play.
But real quick, I also got to give it up to Montu. So Elio, the group that I started with, came out of Montu. I was watching them as a kid, like there were giants on stage. And so what's really beautiful about growing up is that, I don't know if y'all, you see a bunch of stars, then you meet them in real life, and they're not good people. Like, I love that he's still a giant, even in real life. And so I've always appreciated being able to sit at the feet of my elders and learn this. The thing I want to also say that's important about my connection to the drum and to African culture is that when I heard Orbitz in the beginning just talking about the disruption that slavery was for us, the crime against humanity that represented, that my attraction to the drum, the reason I will always come back to it is because I never forget that while we're playing, that we're doing the exact same thing that our ancestors were doing, that there were so many attempts to keep us from. That this is a part of my resistance for me. It's not just, it's fun, and it's also, an honoring of the legacy that was tried to be disrupted and was not. Like us being here, playing this music, studying is evidence of the immortality of African people and African culture. So it's always a very serious thing for me. This is classical music to me. You understand what I'm saying? And so I appreciate being able to study with Baba Sekou, because you see people playing djembe and they loud and they showboating, but I always wanted to make sure I'm studying the music. I wanted to know where the culture was coming from, the language, to really understand the music and not just whacking on drums. And so these are the brothers in the city that that carry that tradition, and so I'm always honored to be in their presence.
Thank you. As I said, too, it is always an honor to be in the presence of studious people who continue to grow and excel. We tell our children to pay attention, listen, truly pay attention. Well, in playing in the music community, I consider myself a cultural musician. And in playing in the music community, I've worked with a brother we just put away, a brother by the name of Coco Calvin Brunson, a most fabulous pianist. And he said something to me once. We went on tour somewhere in Europe. But he said, authenticity by far outweighs virtuosity. And the coming together like this, doing this music with our authentic selves, allows us to organically grow and rise to a level that we had not yet particularly envisioned. Now, there's some things that we all are learning and doing right now that is critical, and this music right here and these dances coming out of Muntu. Yes, Muntu started to unify humanity through cultural creativity. We're expanding. The Sun Drummers started out wanting to be able to recapture the African drum. All of these things are with us, but there's so much more work to be done, and the intergenerational work that is necessary is what all of our challenges is right now. All of us in this room, we're challenged to work with our young people, to work with our older people. Remember, yes, I hear a lot of times people say, it's all about the children. I say somewhat. But we got to remember, we got to, as Sekou was talking about, we got to look out for the elders. We must not push them aside. We have to embrace them. We got to look out for the adults that are asleep, meaning that are lost, that are confused. We got to look out for the sick. We got to look out for all of those who are unable to do what they would normally do for themselves or would even like to. This is a challenge for all of us. So, all right. And with that, I just say, let's keep pushing, let's keep growing.
All right, thank you, thank you. So one of the things that I love to do as a composer is to use jazz elements within a classical world, if you will. So I want to take a little time, and we're just going to create a piece. Earlier, my good friend O.J. Parsons came and just to hang out with us. And I said, O.J., if you feel like it, just jump on stage and do a little poetry. He said no, but immediately he called Tyler Abercrombie. Lastly, I always messed it up. Abercrombie. And you may know her. Last year, about this time, we were doing a project called Paradise Blue at the Timeline Theater. No applause. Okay. You didn't see it. Shame on you. You didn't see it because Silver was a mess. And I just scored a full-length movie, and I finished it. I was watching it, getting my cues, making sure I got it all together. I'm looking at one of the characters. That's Tyler in this movie playing a totally different character. So OJ called her and said, just get to do Sabo. We'll figure it out. So when you feel led, you may come up. We'll play. Just feel led and do your thing. But I have to tell her, don't be Silver, because Silver was a mess. You promise? And you're also on The Shy. Is that what it's called? The Shy. So she's. Anyway, so here we go. I want to start.
poet. And I got my family through the arts because my father wasn't around. So I sought that in the elders, in the art community. And this is a piece I wrote to him years ago, and he never got to hear it. But here it goes for you. My father didn't love me unconditionally, or else he wouldn't have left. Moved out of our house, and of us, my 3 siblings and I forgot about. Until this day, 15 some odd years later, I've never gotten over him. And because of him, I can't love. No, wait, I won't love any man unconditionally. My mother loved one man her entire life. That man, the man, my father, left her alone with 3 daughters and a son to live an unhappy life, consumed in misery, devoured by strife. My brother, who had no choice, became a man too soon and left behind our life. He took on a world he knew nothing of except the naked coldness of his mother's love. He was to survive off wit and strength, letting 10 years go by before he and I and he would meet again and try, though we failed, to be friends. But still, our mouths were there to feed my sisters and I, a daily rigorous struggle for which my father did not heed. We became women while we were still girls, parents to ourselves, providing basic food and shelter, each dollar earned already delinquent on its purpose, perfecting the skill of robbing Peter to pay Paul, a dexterity we had to master if we were to survive at all. You see, I don't remember my father leaving, just that he was gone. The date and time of his final departure has no place in this turbulent song. Was it morning or noon? He traveled mostly by dawn, and foolishly, child sweet, I always expected him to return. You know he always did in the beginning, first every few days and every other night, then once a week on Thursdays, and then I guess then he was gone. But foolishly, child sweet, I always expected him to return. But of course he didn't, and I was smitten until my mind told my heart that sundown is not dawn, and that left is not right, and that daddy, dearest daddy, would not, has not, will not ever return. I was devastated. You see, of my home, he left me ashamed, fleeting memories and his name. Have no friends over to visit, my elder sister explained, else we'd be embarrassed. How will we explain the orange electrical cord thrown over the back porch and extending into the basement, plugged in over the landlord's washer and dryer where we stole our life's basics? But what did I need? Of friends I learned to believe. You see, they were just another pair of eyes to stare, what little food we had to share. There I showed my true face to those who didn't care, because if my own daddy didn't, I said, if my own daddy didn't, why would they dare? My father left, you see, not my mother, but me. He forced me to learn from others what was his job to teach. And on the heels of his exit went much of me. After Dad cut out, with him went my trust. With his eyes went my emotions. With his hands went my comfort with touch. With his departure from my life, I thought went the idea of love. And some days, most nights, I'd wonder if he knew how much of me he stole, or if he even cared about the love we never shared. Does his mind ever run his big, strong hands through the pools of tears that I've cried? Has he mourned that part of me left stranded to die? Oh, I doubt that he knows, or that I will ever tell him so, the severity which he crushed the heart of my soul. And because of him, I thought, Daddy's little girl that found this safe world, where she could not and would not love anyone whose vein did not pulse with the same blood as mine. I was selfish with my love, a precious jewel never seen, for even I am unacquainted with it. Because unconditional love didn't exist, or doesn't exist, Daddy, except in that lonely mother's hug. I thought unconditional love doesn't exist, except in that lonely mother's hug. and then I found art. Thank you.
Yes. Wow, and this is just a rehearsal. So, I mean, we could do this all night long, but we do want to acknowledge any questions that you may have for this work in progress. You notice I have a little recorder down here. I'm recording every note already. I'm hearing the full orchestra, the string. Can you imagine? Woo. So, you got to be there. June 14th, Chicago Immigrant Stories, Chicago Jazz Philharmonic at Pritzker Pavilion, Millennium Park. So can we bring the house lights up and let's get a few questions. I know we don't want it to get too late. As you're thinking of your questions, we have, I guess we'll use this microphone. Mark, yeah, he's coming. And Bertie's here too. I just want to personally thank everyone you see on stage, because the one thing that you see and that what we try to do with Chicago Jazz Philharmonic is to be egoless. You know, this aspect of working together. And if we don't work together, if we don't listen, we won't learn a thing. And I just want to thank each of you publicly just for the amazing work that we're just starting, because at this point, we're just presenting it. We're going to figure out a way to heal the city and deal with violence and all those things through the art. Okay? All right, so any questions?
Raise your hand if you have any questions.
Here we go, right down here in the front, Mark. Mark's going to get his exercise tonight. And maybe, Bertie, you want the other mic too? That way we can...
Okay, this young man has a question. What's your name?
My name is Tyan.
Okay.
I have a question for you.
For the drummers? Okay. What's your question?
What year did you decide to be a drummer?
Okay, what year? How about if we just say at what age? Because we did a performance this morning at a school, and we did Q&A, and I said no age questions. But you could say what age, because if you give a year, then like, boy, back in the no, anyway. So at what age did you commit to being a drummer?
For me, it was around 4 or 5 for me.
I was about 8, 9.
For me, it was about 18, 17, 18. Mm-hmm.
I started drumming around 20.
She's a drummer too.
5 years ago, about 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay, my question, are you a drummer? Are you a drummer? You play guitar, okay. Good. How long, now at what age did you start playing guitar? A year ago? Okay, all right. Awesome. Sign him up for our jazz camp.
OJ has a question.
Question.
Yeah,
OJ.
First of all, it's definitely an honor to be here to witness this mixture of music. It's just beautiful. I wondered if when you're writing a concert and you know you're writing jazz or blues or classical, do you approach it different, or is it the same formula that you use when you're writing or writing with someone? Is that different than writing by yourself and that kind of?
Good question. Well, I have no formula at all. The music has to come to me. I actually spend about, and my wife will say, yeah, to this, I spend about 80% of my time in research and only 20% actually composing. She's the one who'll say, okay, concert's coming soon. Please start writing. What are you doing? Watching another video. So this process is going to be totally different than anything that I've ever composed. And Howard and I have worked on a project with his group, Trio Global, and we did an arrangement of Dvorak's New World Symphony, Ninth Symphony, and basically we just talked. We talked about our experiences. We listened to the CSO's version of it and had a score in front of us, and then the ideas just flow. So, but for this, you know, that's why I say we're recording every minute of these experiences. We're going to meet April 2nd.
I just thought April 1st is not a good day to start something else.
Oh, right.
You know. Neither is April 15th, actually.
Yeah, right. We'll take the 15th off for various reasons. But it's more of just continuing the story and painting a picture, if you will. What elements are in the concert. Right now, we know that everyone will be featured in the first part of the concert, and that will bring everybody together. One thing that we did discover in working with our Chinese American friends is that they don't traditionally read Western notation. That's a problem. Think about it. I'm going to write something and say, okay, play it. Well, I can't read this. So they read in a very sophisticated kind of a number system.
Yeah, it's a number. Each note is a number of what note it is in the scale of the key that you're in. And then they have rhythmic notation to go along with it. So it's very precise, but if you're not used to it, you know, they're gonna have to transcribe what we write into their system.
We haven't talked about this yet, but what we're gonna end up doing is having them play what they play. So there's three Chinese folk songs that will arrange for them as they play it. So the orchestra will simply be kind of clothing on what they already do, so they won't feel. We don't ever want anyone to feel out of their element or feel like, wow, we got to come to this, you know. But there will be lots of improvisation. So you can actually catch on CAN TV, I think, on the website, our session with them. Yeah. And the first time we met, they said, we don't improvise. We do not improvise. Once we started playing, there was some serious. Yeah. I'm serious. It was AACMC. Yeah. No, seriously, it was some amazing music made. So when we go back and look at the footage and listen, we'll put them in the element. I can't wait till the actual meeting. Once we get the sketches and the music pretty much 90% complete, we're going to have everyone meet and just go to dinner or something and just talk again. And it's something about the process. So this process could be a lot different than, say, when Ron called me to write the music for Paradise Blue. That was 1949. It was specific to that. So I just listened to a lot of Fats Navarro and just, but again, in one night, the 9 songs just basically came to me, and it just write it. Some of it was written on napkins, and then when these guys play it in the studio, you know, it comes to life. So a lot of that is like Duke Ellington's process of trusting the musicians and knowing who that I'm writing for, you know. And it's like it's imagery, it's imagination. But by April 15th, we will envision the whole concert, and it will be written to give our copyists time to prepare the parts and everything. But it's a journey. You talk about the whole thing is a journey, and sometimes we just have to dive into it, and it happens. Oh, the CD, Paradise Blue, is available. That's right.
Out in the lobby.
Thank you, Ron.
We have another question here.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Sandra Bivens. I am one of the founders of the Brownsville Jazz Festival and also the Brown Derby Jazz Review. We tried to get you last year because we do truly, because we're in the hood. And I truly like what you said about bringing this music, this history down into the neighborhoods is what we do. We're right on 51st and King Drive. And I'm going to try to get you again this year.
Okay. You see the young man in front of you?
Yeah.
Give him the date earlier this time.
Okay. Because they need to hear this. They're not going to come to the DeSable, but they are out there in the streets, you know.
Sure.
And when we get over 1,000 people out there, so.
Right.
But I want to say to Baba Tiba that I truly appreciate you mentioning Coco, because Coco Bronson was one of the ones that helped us start this event. He was a genius, and he's one of the elders that most people will never know about how great he was. And thank you for that. And that's what I thank you for. And I hope I can get you Orbit this year.
Truly.
In August 18th.
August 16th. Okay, all right.
Any other questions?
Here's a question down here.
Okay.
I was really moved by the combination of the drums and the dance.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard and I saw how the timekeeper there sped it up and slowed it down. My question is, when I say moved, I was emotionally moved, actually teary-eyed. And I'm curious is the traditional dance actually taught in the city on the South Side for seasoned people like myself?
Classes, oh, yeah.
Yes, Muntu offers classes every Saturday, on the South Side, every Saturday from 11 to 12:30 at the Gary Comer Youth Center, which is, 69th?
No, 71st and South Chicago.
Yeah. So, we do that. It's walk-ins, anybody can come in. It's not about where you think you should be. It's come in with
you can teach
the
me
heart
too?
to learn. Yeah, it won't be me teaching you, but
But
you will get taught.
Oh, man.
Yes, so Gary Comer, every Saturday.
73rd
11
in
to
South
12:30.
Chicago. Yeah, awesome. Oh, just a couple questions and a couple more.
One more over here.
Yeah.
I don't have a question. I enjoyed everything, but I remembered I went to the auditorium theater, and did you do a collaboration with Cuba? It was awesome. Just like, well, this is awesome
You remember
too.
that?
I love it. But that was just the music is just so beautiful. I just love it.
Yeah,
and
thank
when
you.
people say, I remember when Michael Jackson used to say, they wanted him to do something, he said, you got to feel it. So that's why I tell people, you're a musician, you have to feel it. I'm not a musician, but I sing, but you got to feel it. So
All right.
I love it.
Thank you. That night at the Auditorium Theater, we had 37 students from Havana and college and high school students playing with the orchestra. Never forget it. I mentioned earlier, I have another dream. My dream, well, first of all, when we were in Cuba, we met some amazing drummers, percussionists, and it's almost like the feeling is, it's like meeting a cousin who you never knew. It's like, oh, my cousin, my family. And so my next goal, and David Day is going to make this happen somehow, is that we got to go to Cuba together. We just got to go. We got to go because
let me know when.
It really becomes a family reunion because it's 90 miles and ships went here, ships went here, but the blood stayed the same. All right, so we want to thank you all so very much for sharing this event with us. And we'll see you on June 14th. Also, Bertie didn't mention, but July 16th, Chicago Jazz Philharmonic will be back at Millennium Park celebrating the 100th anniversary of Nelson Mandela with a program called Hope in Action. And you may even see some drummers there on the stage, and then we talk them into coming back. And then August 29th, Chicago Jazz Philharmonic will officially open the Chicago Jazz Festival at Millennium Park. So we want to see you all there. Tell your friends, and don't forget the collection plate by the door. Anyway, thank you so much. Have a great night.